Happy Easter, everybody, and welcome along to this week's edition of Hong Kong Direct. We've got an action-packed show ahead of us. Here's what's coming up on this week's edition. And we'll be looking back at a significant day of racing at Sha Tin as we build up towards FWD Champions Day. Beauty Generation and Voyage Warrior, the big winners. Plus, Andrew Le Jeune goes behind the scenes with Stephen Higgins for a close-up look at how exactly the track preparation works at Sha Tin. He was brilliant on debut, but he hasn't been the same since then. Will Beauty Legacy bounce back this weekend? Adam Campton's in the studio to answer that particular question. Adam, welcome to the show. A lot to look forward to on an 11-race card this weekend, but last week, big day, 2 Group 2s. I thought the stories were just as much about who was beaten rather than who necessarily won on the day. Yeah, definitely right. Thank you for having me on the show. Last weekend was it was a big day. It was a good day to get a guide on our young and also older horses in Hong Kong. A lot of people were talking about Athero. He was a bit disappointing, but I'm happy to put a pen just through that run. Not much went his way. Beauty Generation, the old war horse was back to his best. And also out of that race, Waikuku was a touch disappointing. So hopefully he improves for the Group 1 later on in the month because if he does, I think he can turn the tables on Beauty Generation. OK, we'll expand upon those points shortly, but let's find out how exactly the day panned out with Tom Wood.
The countdown is well and truly underway for FWD Champions Day on April 26th, and last Sunday's meeting at Sha Tin formed an important dress rehearsal for Hong Kong racing's next major event. The first of the features, the Group 2 Chairman's Trophy, appeared to be a match race between Hong Kong's master miler Beauty Generation and his recent conqueror Waikuku. The pair had clashed 5 times this season, with Waikuku finishing ahead of Beauty Generation at their last 4 encounters, but that wasn't the case this time.
Beauty Generation, Ka-Ying Star the rail, Southern Legend outside the 3, Beauty Generation, he's fighting, there's plenty of fight in those legs of his, and he's going to win the Chairman's Trophy again.
Yeah, he's just a wonderful horse, isn't he? He continues to break and set records. He's as honest as they come. He gives everything. Well, his best performance was his first up run this season, but I would say that this is probably his second best performance. He wasn't aggressively trying to chase the other horse before the straight. He was happy just to let him go a little bit, but keep him in his sights. And he felt to me like he always had the confidence he was going to pick him up. And then when he was challenged, find that little spurt of acceleration and know that he was always going to be able to comfortably hold the other horse off. I could just feel the confidence that was in him the whole race, and I think that was the most pleasing part.
The second feature of the afternoon, the Group 2 Sprint Cup, was expected to be a showdown between the consistent Hot King Prawn and the resuming boom speedster Athero. However, Voyage Warrior had other ideas.
Voyage Warrior still in front, is out by a length and finding plenty. Voyage Warrior, thanks forever Hot King Prawn, they can't get him, and Voyage Warrior goes all the way.
When I asked him, he kicked off really strong. I know a lot of good horses behind, so I just put my head down and ask for his best effort. I think he got tired a little bit the last 50 meters. Yeah, luckily we managed to keep the win.
As for the odds-on favourite Athero, he trailed in last, almost 10 lengths off Voyage Warrior.
This time the gates open and he just seemed to stand there and balk, let the other horses jump. It wasn't ideal after that there was the interference that we copped as well. They all come out and squeezed him and really put him out the back. Then they went along at such a slow sectional the first quarter that he got up on the bit over racing, copped a bit of interference, and it was just a big mess for him. It was complete forgive.
It's anticipated that this year's renewal of Champions Day is unlikely to feature international runners, so the stage is set for the stars of Hong Kong to cement their positions in the local pecking order in the end-of-season climax event.
Plenty of talking points then from last Sunday at Sha Tin. Adam, let's start off with Beauty Generation. He's the $100 million man. He joined Silent Witness as an 18-time winner here in Hong Kong with that victory. What a marvellous horse he is.
Phenomenal horse. Both him and Zach have just an incredible combination. It was great to see him, as Zach said, he's seen that horse leading and he pinned his ears back and he showed his best. John Moore, massive pat on the back for how he's just managed to keep this horse peaking and peaking time after time. But incredible horse, and I just hope he can get it done later on in the month once again, because he deserves to keep continuing on his winning ways.
Waikuku was fancied to beat him once again in that race. What do we put that flop down to? Was it the track, the rain-affected conditions on the day, the time between runs? Can you put it down to anything?
I don't really know. That's why we leave those things up to John Size. He's the king of the horses, so he was very disappointing, but on the turn he was scrubbed along. He just wasn't at his best. His best is a very good horse, and I think if he, as I said earlier, I think if he does produce his best later on in the month, he'll be very, very hard to beat. But in saying that, hopefully John has something up his sleeve, because it was a below par effort and he does have to improve a lot.
And as far as the Sprint Cup was concerned, Voyage Warrior, well done to Ricky Yu and All Connections. Would you be put off for Thero, though, for the Chairman Sprint Prize? No,
definitely not. Voyage Warrior was really, really good. He's just another horse that's loving going to Chung Fa and back. He's already gone back to Chung Fa this week again to get ready for this month's Group 1. And I think Thero, I think he's still a young horse on the rise. We've got to remember that. He does do a lot wrong. If he doesn't miss the kick in the Group 1 at the end of the month, I think it'll be very, very hard to hold out. But he's doing a lot wrong. Hopefully we can see his best.
OK, well, as of Sunday, as Tom Wood said, it looked unlikely we would get international horses for the big day on Champions Day. And given the current climate, it's been revealed as of Thursday night with the selected runners that it will be an all Hong Kong affair for the 3 Group 1s. Here's the selected runners for the QE2 Cup. Exultant's been the banner horse in these middle distance to staying races, but he's got a new rival in the Derby winner, Golden 60.
This is going to be an awesome clash. Exultant's probably one of the toughest horses I've seen since I've been in Hong Kong. Just continues to produce his best time and time again. Golden 60, an absolute star on the rise. He showed us in the Derby how good he was. He got to the top of that straight at Sha Tin, looked at Playa del Puente and thought, I'm going to get over the top of you. He's an incredible horse, and Exultant's getting a little bit older. But I think if we see Golden 60's best, he can get over the champ.
Beauty Generation's on song for a 3rd consecutive Champions Mile. If you were John Moore or Zach Purton, you look at the potential rivals in the race, who would you be most worried about? Is it Waikuku returning to his best, or is it one of the newer horses potentially, or that you think could threaten Beauty Generation?
Definitely, you've got to respect Waikuku. Everyone knows how good he is when he's at his best. He's trained by John Size. Joe Moreira rides him, so he's definitely going to be the one they're going to keep an eye on. But I think more than this, back to the mile, I think he'll really, really appreciate that. A very, very talented horse who showed us early on this season that he can rattle off some pretty serious sectionals over the mile. So I think Zach will be a little bit worried about that. But the way Beauty Generation's going, I think he'll be very confident in his own horse. And the Chairman's Sprint Prize, we heard from Tom before, it looks a very sort of similar field to what we had for the Sprint Cup. And that is revealed here as well too. We've got Wishful Thinker as well as Big Time Baby Jolly Banner added to the field. But I know you're a huge Thero fan. If he bounces back to his best, is it Thero Hot King Prawn, the match race we thought we were going to get last Sunday? I thought Hot King Prawn was a touch disappointing. Of course, I do love Thero, and I think once we do see that best again, he's going to blow this field away if he does. As I said earlier, he does have a lot to improve, and he's got to learn a little bit more and mature in the head, but he's taken on some pretty smart horses. So horses like Thanks Forever, who was very, very good last start, his stablemate, I think he's the one who they'll all be keeping the eye on. I thought he was awesome last start. Yeah, I thought he ran really well too. So that's a bit of a glimpse into what we can look forward to on FWD Champions Day on the 26th of April. We'll have plenty more of the build-up to that huge meeting over the next couple of weeks. Right now, we're going to go to a break here in Hong Kong Direct. Don't go anywhere. Plenty more after this. It's terrific to have your company on this week's edition of Hong Kong Direct. Adam Campton is still our special guest here with us in the studio. More from Adam in a moment. But we're going to continue on our behind-the-scenes tours of racing here in Hong Kong. Andrew Le Jeune went behind the scenes a few weeks ago with Chad Schofield in the jockey's room. And this time out, he's with Stephen Higgins, taking a closer look at the track at Sha Tin.
we're out on the track at Sha Tin this morning with Head of Race Day Operations Stephen Higgins and Tracks Manager TY as well to talk about what goes into managing Sha Tin Racecourse. We're at the winning post at the moment. Before we get into the nitty-gritty and the details of it all though, Stephen, thanks for this morning. Tell us a little bit about the racecourse itself, because we're actually standing here on reclaimed land. It's completely purpose-built.
Yes, in the early 70s the government started to reclaim the land all the way from the sea, as you know where it is, all the way to Sha Tin, and very fortunate the club had the foresight to take some of that land and build this amazing racecourse. So it's been here since '76, and it's a wonderful facility.
It's not only a racecourse, Sha Tin, it's also a main training centre. Well, over 1,000 horses stabled here as well. So you've got racing once a week, but it's also day-to-day running. How do you manage that in terms of the amount of traffic you have on the course?
Yeah, we have about 1,100 horses a day come out and use the training facilities, either the turf or the dirt. We've got a big team of guys who look after both surfaces. They work 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day, because the track opens at 4 a.m. So through the night they're making those decisions about how to prepare the track and make sure that it's in the optimum condition for trainers to access. And our barometer is, if trainers are not telling us and giving us feedback about being unhappy, then they're generally happy. So that's where we head towards.
And I see too why the sprinklers are on almost constantly. It seems to be an enormous amount of water that's put onto the course, but the ground itself very rarely changes from actually being a good surface.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have a irrigation system on the both side of the turf track. Yeah, depends on the situation. We make a decision how many water put on the turf track. Yeah.
In terms of the surface as well, is one of the other things I suppose is, we talk about it quite a bit, is the winter and summer grass. How do you transition from one to the other when you're still using it as a training centre and a racecourse as well?
Again, we've got a very experienced team, Andrew, and what tends to happen, we know that the summer grass will survive all year, but it goes very thin in the winter. It suffers from the colder weather. So what we tend to do when we do transition, which is generally around the end of October, yeah, we thin out the summer grass, and then you see that the track looks a little thin, and we overseed with rye, which is this species here, which is a European species. It's a lot thicker, and this really takes prominence through from October until around about April. Then in April, the winter grass, or the British breed, if you like, starts to suffer, and the roots start to dry up, and this would die if we tried to race on it through the summer. Yeah. So
British don't do well in heat, do they?
The British certainly don't. I'm struggling behind this mass. Yeah. If TY might be able to find us a section of Bermuda, but then the Bermuda switches through the transition period, April, and we race generally on Bermuda from April to October. So you'll see it's much more of a sprig than a leaf. Now, whilst I say that we don't kill the summer grass in the winter, it's there and it remains dormant as the winter grass gets the prominence. So we're always just managing that, and as you see, if you look down the track now, you'll see different shades of green. So the summer grass is naturally coming back because it's been so warm, and we'll help it by thinning out behind the fence. The winter grass and the summer grass will then take prominence, and we'll have that switch over at the end of April.
All right. And what have you got there in your hand there, TY?
Yeah, we take a look. Okay.
So what we do when we walk the track on a race day, at 200-metre intervals, we'll take samples like this. And really this is just to look at the profile. You'll see this is predominantly sand. There's a bit of organic material, soil, a little bit further down, but it's predominantly sand. And that's why it drains so well.
Yeah.
But what we tend to do, we just take these cores and we give them a squeeze, and just to see what the amount of moisture is in that. And generally, when you look at your hand, if the moisture's sticking to your hand, you know there's plenty of moisture there. And from that, we'll make a decision about how much water we'll put on a race day to try and aim towards good ground. We do try and start racing here on good ground if at all possible.
Yeah. So that's one of the tools you then use to make an official going description.
Yes, it is. We're very fortunate. We use the penetrometer, which is predominantly used in France. We use the going stick, which is a UK device. We use the Clegg hammer and the shear vane. And we also take probes to measure the moisture content. So we take all that information and we review it. We walk the track, we take those core samples, and then we make that official decision.
Yeah. At the start of the season, we were seeing a lot of really quick times and some course and class records as well. Was there a reason for that at all?
It's very interesting. I think from when I started a number of years ago now, we started to put more water into the track and try and give the horses a kinder surface. And what we saw, I think, was the perfect storm at the beginning of this season, in that the summer weather stayed with us until the end of October. We were watering. We had a difficult transition period. And I think that those fast times were all around about that time. So there were various factors and good horses. Yeah. You know, not all good horses, but obviously Athero doing what he did. As soon as we felt that we could, and because we'd sown with the winter grass, as soon as we could, we verti-drained again, and that just backed them off a little bit. So we learnt a little bit as well. But predominantly the tracks have got more moisture in than they have over from previous years.
All right, so that's the weekday sort of stuff, but on race day as well. So you'd walk the course in the morning before racing?
Yeah.
And then you're on duty all day as well. We sometimes see you walking in and with the jockeys backing to weigh in. What are some of the responsibilities on race day?
Yeah, I think on a race day, the team, I'm very fortunate, as I say, TY, Paco and our experienced tracks team here, Ray Cheng, they look after the racing services on a race day, and they're fantastic. But my race day role is to liaise with those, check on the going to make sure if we're going to upgrade or downgrade, make sure from a medical perspective that all the medical provision is in place because they're in our team, and we manage and monitor that through the day. Race time changes, I'll deal with the stewards around that. And any safety issues, any comments from the jockeys about the track, if they come across anything, we try and rectify and make sure that we provide the safest, fairest and best surface for our competitors.
All right, brilliant. So managing the track through the week, race day from 7 till 7, you take the rest of the week off, do you?
We only wish so. We're racing on a Wednesday. We're pretty busy 6-7 days a week, but we do our best.
Yes, he's a hard worker, Stephen Higgins. Thanks to Andrew Le Jeune for that insight. We are racing at Sha Tin on Easter Sunday this weekend. A bumper 11 race card, and the highest class event comes up as the lucky last. Beauty Legacy comes back in trip after an aborted Derby campaign. Decrypt ran in the Derby. This is his first run since then. Perfect Match has won 2 of his last 3. It's Antoine Hamlin's first day of riding in Hong Kong this stint as well too. Dragon General's coming off a last start win. Over the page to the Inform Starshine. General's Delight arrived here with big raps from Australia. He's second up heading into this race. And All in Mind and Ballistic King are both in form and stepping up in class. So let's start off at the top then, Adam, with Beauty Legacy. He was super the way that he was able to win at his Hong Kong debut. He's been his own worst enemy at his recent starts, and because of that, he didn't run in the Derby. Yeah,
he summed it up perfectly. He has been his own worst enemy. A horse with a serious engine. He has been ridden quietly since arriving in Hong Kong. That's obviously a plan of John Size and Joe Moreira's. I personally believe that if the horse does go forward, he'll be very hard to beat. I don't know what we're going to see on Sunday. But I think, if we do see him at his best, I think he'll absolutely blow this field away. But if he's ridden in behind him, I think we'll see him not be too happy with that once again.
Back to 1,400 metres, and we also saw him trial recently and won that trial and was in front. So he's shown that he can be up on the pace here in Hong Kong too. Yeah, definitely, and his Australian run showed that as well. As I said, he's a really good horse. There's just a few little screws loose, but I trust John Size. He'll get this horse sorted. I believe they're going to still try and ride him probably quiet on the weekend. But yeah, his recent trial was outstanding. It was a sign of a very good horse. Decrypt's another horse who arrived here from overseas with strong credentials. He was third in the Irish 2,000 guineas. 7th in the Derby last time out, but we've seen that he's amongst the entries for the Champions Mile. Back to 1,400 metres. Zach rides. What do you make of his hopes? Huge tick back to 1,400 metres, as I don't think the horse stays. I thought he was good in the Derby, but it was a slowly run Derby, so he sort of ran to the line with the rest of the other horses. It was a good run. Back to the 1,400, perfect. He's a rock-hard fit horse. There's not much of him. He's only a little pocket rocket, but I think he'll be charging on late. I just would like to see him, put another win on the board. Okay, and another horse I wanted to ask you about in the race too is Starshine. He's my pick for the event. He hasn't won for nearly a couple of years, but I thought last time out he was closing off really well in a slowly run race. We know when he's at his best, he is a talented horse. Yeah, he has got a really good engine. He's drawn to be more positive on the weekend, so I think Vincent will, just be sitting right behind the speed. He'll be stalking and get to the outside and let rip. Francis and
Vincent just continue to keep their combination going, and they must be respected once again.
Yeah, they're having a fabulous season. They're three of the hopes in the race. It's a really even race.
Yeah.
You found one at a bit of value for us.
Hopefully, once again, he's a horse that I've always had a lot of opinion of. He's come back out in the ratings now. Dragon General, number 5. Since I've been in Hong Kong, he's just been I just think he's a really consistent horse. And with the recent rain around, hopefully if they get a little bit more on the weekend, he'll be running a huge race. You always get a good price about him. Wagner Borges goes on his back on Sunday. He's got a really good set of hands. Barrier 1's perfect. In saying that, he is a horse that I think does need to be ridden a little bit quietly. So hopefully he's stalking them and he does get the outside and runs over the top of them at big odds.
We saw him do that last time out behind Happy Fun. So if there's speed on, you know that he'll be running on. How much he'll be running on, we don't know, but you're saying he can win.
Definitely. I think if we see his best, he does have to beat some very good horses, but we've seen time and time again that he's a consistent horse. If Beauty Legacy produces his best, he's going to be a very, very hard horse to chase down, but I'm going to put my faith in the little grey horse and let him try and get us some money back.
Okay, so Dragon General, the pick for the highlight on Sunday's card at Sha Tin. 11 races, so the trackside coverage commences at 12 o'clock Hong Kong time. And then 9 races at Happy Valley on Wednesday night. So the coverage begins at 6:15 Hong Kong time. And don't forget, FWD Champions Day. It's the big event we're now building up to here in Hong Kong. 3 Group 1s on what will no doubt be an action-packed day, and a day that's always one of the highlights of the season. That's all from us, though, on this week's edition of Hong Kong Direct. Adam, thanks for coming on.
Thanks very much for having me, Ed.
We're going to look forward to your company this weekend at Sha Tin on Sunday. We've got a Griffin race on the program. And when looking back through the archives of memorable Griffin races, don't have to go too far back to Pakistan Star, winning on debut in 2016, a performance that caught the attention of racing fans right around the world. We'll see you at Sha Tin on Sunday. Until then, it's goodbye.
From Cheerwin and CJ to the middle, but it's Call Me Handsome and Bear Chum in a sterling battle. They're 3 lengths clear. Armrunder, followed by Gainful Jet and Lookaras. Call Me Handsome and Bear Chum. Bear Chum and Call Me Handsome. Great titanic struggle. Look at Pakistan Star right out in the middle of the track from last to first. What a win this! Pakistan Star has blown them away.